Penn State has lost 2 games in a row. It is plummeting down the AP top 20. Its quarterback is banged up. It just lost one of its best defensive players for the season a couple weeks ago. Things are not trending in the direction that we thought this game would at the start of the season, or even within a month ago when we thought there was going to be a big top 10 clash. So we're staying here at the Woody Hayes Athletic Complex. I'm Nathan Baird from cleveland.com. I'm with Doug Lesmerises and Stephen Means, and we're asking, what are we supposed to take away from this matchup between Ohio State and Penn State, maybe especially for what it could tell us about Ohio State? Doug, what do you take away from this game?
Well, I mean, I'm trying to figure out what's going to happen or how we're supposed to think about it. Because I'll say this. I think Sean Clifford, when he's healthy, is the second best quarterback in the Big Ten right now. And I wasn't maybe sure.
Distant second.
But second. And again, at least the second best starting quarterback, if we wanted to have a debate whether he's better than Kyle McCord. And it just changes everything. It just changes everything. And James Franklin is saying on a Tuesday that he thinks he'll be 100% for Saturday. It gives them a chance. And there's part of me that wants to be like, you know what? Just because they suffered the worst loss in program history in the 9 overtimes against a horrible Illinois team with multiple coaching mistakes and nobody made a play, doesn't mean you should think that Penn State's terrible, right? That they have good players. They have, I think they probably have, if I'm going to do it off the top of my head, I bet you they have 6, 7 players who would start for Ohio State, which, sounds like, oh, cool. 6 or 7 out of 22. It's like, Ohio State plays teams where there's not a single guy, where there's one guy, where there's 2. So they have good players, and they just had an awful game. And once their quarterback got hurt, everything fell apart. So if the quarterback's healthy, then are they back to 6th best team in the country, Penn State? Maybe. Really, maybe. Their offense still isn't great. But part of me wants to make sure we don't sleep on Ohio State, but also it feels like Ohio State's offense is so good right now they might just win every game by 40. So it makes me feel like a crazy person in trying to think to myself, you know what? Don't underestimate Penn State here, and then it's going to be 52 to 9. That's what I got.
Well, this is really becoming the hard part of assessing these games, both going in and coming out. Because here's the thing. Ohio State's not 47 points better than healthy Indiana. I don't believe that they are. If you put those cornerbacks back on the field, including an All-American and Tywan Mullen, and if you even just have their backup quarterback healthy for that whole game, and Jack Tuttle, who drove down and scored pretty easily on the first drive of the game, although I know Ohio State's given those up and then they tend to correct it. But, it's not a 47-point game. So I'm looking at Penn State, and I'm seeing what is probably the best secondary in the Big Ten. I'm looking at Brandon Smith, who's a really good linebacker. I'm looking at Jahan Dotson, who is one of those guys who might be able to start at Ohio State as a receiver. He's at least of that caliber. There may not be a spot for him here at Ohio State right now, but he's of that level that he could start at Ohio State. But I'm just not. Does it matter if they don't have a quarterback who can get anybody the ball right now? And that's, I think, where I'm stuck. It's I'm not seeing teams able to give their best shot to Ohio State, and it's making it harder to assess just how good Ohio State is right now. Stephen, I guess, how are you kind of analyzing this game as we go into it?
I think Penn State has enough there that we are going to still be watching the game in the second half, which none of us were doing. We were all writing last week. And basically for the last couple of weeks here, by halftime, we're all starting to write our stories. I do think Penn State, that's been the thing here, though. Penn State always has enough to keep it close up to a certain point before the depth takes over. It just starting last year, that depth was just taking over a little bit quicker. Now, last year was weird, obviously, but I just think that's where we're at now, where, yes, Jahan Dotson could probably be in the start, would play at Ohio State for sure. They would have a 4-man rotation at worst. These cornerbacks would probably all be starting for Ohio State right now. These linebackers, some of these linebackers would probably be Ohio State starting linebackers right now. But I don't know what that means, because what it means is it's probably going to be 17-7 at halftime, or 17-7 halfway through the second quarter, and then at some point this offense is just going to start clicking. This offense makes it very hard to gauge who can actually compete with Ohio State and who can't, because nobody can score like that. So it's kind of, there's an asterisk by everything you want to say about Penn State, because it's like, yeah, but do you think they're going to score 35-plus points?
Well, right now I think also none of these opponents has an offense that is helping their defense out at all. They're not giving their defense any kind of a break. They're just out there every couple minutes and having to try to defend Ohio State up and down the field, and that's not where it's at. That's a really tough ask for any defense right now, the way Ohio State is playing. Get the text 614-350-3315 and listen to the pod. We're doing them 5 days a week. We're going to have pods all the way leading up to Saturday's game and the post-game pod overnight. Ohio State against Penn State.